If you have osteoporosis, you want to avoid its most feared consequences like breaking a bone, losing your independence, having to be dependent on your loved ones. So you start taking supplements, but are they doing you any good? That's exactly what we'll cover in this video. The most common supplement that people take when they have osteoporosis is actually calcium. But in their own fact sheet for health professionals, the National Institutes of Health even states that calcium doesn't increase bone density. Why not? It's because bone is made of more than just calcium. Calcium is one out of 11 minerals that make a bone. Furthermore, minerals only make up about 40% of bone. So what about the 60% that isn't bone? Well, that's made of things that are not calcium. Let me ask you, if you're making a cake for 5 people and at the last minute, each person tells you they're bringing in a guest with them, do you expect to double the flour and have double the cake? Well, no, you have to double every ingredient, not just flour. The same thing happens with bones. You have to increase more than just calcium. So calcium doesn't work, and I elaborate on the many reasons why in my video on your screen right now and in the description below. The second most overrated supplement when it comes to osteoporosis is curcumin. In one study, women with postmenopausal osteoporosis were divided into 3 groups. Group number 1 was the control group. Group number 2, they received the medication alendronate, which also goes by Fosamax, and group number 3 received a combination of alendronate and curcumin. Group number 3 improved their bone density more than both groups 1 and 2, but also let's remember from the discussions on calcium that an improvement in bone density doesn't necessarily translate to improvement in fracture risk. And what really matters is fracture risk, not just bone density. Improving your bone density without decreasing your fracture risk is actually not a good thing. What it does is it gives you a false sense of how strong your bones are. It's almost like you have a warning light flashing in your car. What do? Do you fix what it's telling you to fix, or do you take out the light? Well, that's what you're doing when you're improving your bone density without decreasing fracture risk. You want them to be the same thing, not opposites. So although there's no great research on curcumin, it's promising. However, research is also conflicting. In another study, they conclude the opposite. The available experimental data do not support the use of curcumin in the prophylaxis and treatment of postmenopausal osteoporosis. So there's promise, but it's also conflicting. It's not like every single study ever done says, yes, take this. There are other supplements that are much better for you, which I'll talk about at the end of this video, so you can see which ones actually work and have a good amount of evidence behind them. Another supplement frequently taken by women who have osteoporosis is magnesium. However, this is one supplement where there is almost no research, no randomized controlled trials where people with osteoporosis are given magnesium and seeing what happens to their bones. All we have at this time is observational research. What it means is that the researchers are not manipulating data. They're not giving some people magnesium and other people not magnesium. They're just looking at people's habitual magnesium intake levels. In one study where people with osteoporosis were given magnesium supplements, they had positive changes in blood markers of bone loss. However, neither bone density nor fracture risk were assessed in that study. To have valid conclusions, we have to look at the bottom line, which is fracture risk, not just markers of bone metabolism or bone turnover. My take is this: if you're deficient in magnesium and you take it, you'll have great improvements in a lot of things. But if you're not deficient in it, to go from normal to excessive is not good either. The body likes to be in the middle, not deficient, not excessive, just right, kind of like Goldilocks. Another supplement often taken by people with osteoporosis is phosphorus, because it goes together with calcium. But does phosphorus supplementation improve fracture risk? And again, we want to generalize from studies on fracture risk to real world results, not studies on bone metabolism that don't look at fracture risk. So let's see what happens when the research looks at phosphorus. There's only one small study of only 7 postmenopausal women with osteoporosis. In that study, the women were given phosphorus supplements, and the researchers looked at biochemical changes of bone metabolism. So not a fracture risk, not a bone density, but changes in bone metabolism. The only thing we can take from this small study is that there was a small positive biochemical impact of phosphorus supplementation on bone, but does that translate to long-term, like over a year or more? Does that translate to an increased bone density and a lower fracture risk? We just don't know. There's no evidence on that at this time. And the final supplement I'll discuss here as one of the most overrated supplements for osteoporosis is glucosamine. Glucosamine, there actually is research on it for osteoarthritis, but none for osteoporosis. People hear the word osteo and they think it's the same thing, but they're actually very different. Osteoarthritis is a loss of cartilage. Osteoporosis is a loss of bone. Cartilage and bone are very different tissues and they're made of totally separate things. So while glucosamine slows down the loss of cartilage in people with osteoarthritis, it doesn't do anything for the bone of people with osteoporosis. Although there's no research, if I was to give you my 2 cents, my opinion, I strongly doubt that it works for osteoporosis. Now, these are the 5 most overrated supplements for osteoporosis. If you want to learn which supplements are actually helpful for osteoporosis, check out my video on the 3 most underrated supplements for osteoporosis that strengthen bones without medications on your screen right now and in the description below. Also, if you want more comprehensive help with your own osteoporosis, you want help with exercise, nutrition, supplements, you can fill out the application form on my website in the description below, and there you can schedule a quick 10 to 15 minute phone call, no pressure, no sales pitch, just to find out about your situation and see if you can help.